Hello, beautiful people. If you are new here, my name is Jo. If you are not new here, welcome back to my channel. It's great to see you guys all here today with me. So today I am going to be talking about the books that I read in July. I have a lot of amazing books to talk about, so let's just get right into it. So I read 16 books in the month of July. 8 of them were ebooks, 4 of them were physical, and 4 were audio. Pretty much kind of like an average month in terms of how much I read as well as my enjoyment. Okay, so the first book that I finished in the month of July was Queen of Rot and Pain by Liv Zander. This is the second book in the Pale Court duology. This is a dark fantasy romance duology, so expect to have some triggers. One of them including non-con, that is a very big theme, also some sorts of punishment and things like that. So in this story, we are following our main character Ada after the events of the first book. The first half of this book for me was a little bit rough for me to get into. I think the hero of the story held on to a certain grudge a little bit too long, and it made it a little bit repetitive and irritating for me. However, this duology is one of those that you have a lot of fun while you're reading it, even though you have no idea why you're having fun. So all in all, I did like this duology. I just don't know if darker fantasy romance is necessarily for me 100%, but I did give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Heart of the Fae by Emma Hamm. This is book 1 in her Underworld series. What are you messing with, sir? So this story is pretty much a Celtic Beauty and the Beast retelling, and we are following our heroine Sorsha, who lives in this world that is plagued by these things called blood beetles. They get into your skin, they multiply, they kill the host. When her father comes down with the blood beetle plague, Sorsha decides that she will do anything necessary to save her father and her sisters, even make a deal with the Fae. Our hero in this story, our little beastie man, he's very interesting. His beastly nature pretty much is that when he gets injured, instead of the skin healing or having a scar or something like that, there are these geodes, stones, that kind of crop up in his injuries, which I found really, really interesting. Obviously, you know I love a hero with a tortured past. I love that. Eamon is our hero. He is a banished Seelie prince. He was banished because of the geodes that grow on his skin, because the Seelie are very shallow creatures. But I really enjoyed this first book, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So carrying on with that, I read book 2 in the Otherworld series, Veins of Magic by Emma Hamm. These first 2 books in this series are kind of like a duology. They both follow Sorsha and Eamon. So in this story, Sorsha returns to the land of the Fae in order to assist Eamon in his quest to regain his rightful place on the Seelie throne. This one I didn't like as much. A lot of the time during this book, Eamon and Sorsha were split up for some reason or another, whether that's physically or mentally and emotionally. They always seem to be on 2 sides of the conversation, just kind of batting at each other, and I didn't really enjoy that. I do really like the side characters in this series. I'm interested to read more in this world, but nevertheless, I gave Veins of Magic 3 out of 5 stars. Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. I absolutely loved this one. This one's one of my favorites of the month. So in this story, we are following Delilah Green, who has to return to her small hometown in order to be the photographer for her estranged stepsister's wedding. Now, Delilah has a lot of trauma from her childhood. She has dealt with a lot of grief over the death of her father, and she was very isolated during her childhood. When Delilah gets to this town, her plan is to get in, get the pictures done, and get back to New York, where she is trying to be an artist. But of course, that doesn't happen. She meets Claire Sutherland, who is one of her estranged stepsister's best friends from back in the day, who Delilah doesn't remember being very nice to her. I absolutely love this story. This is a kind of rom-com on the surface, but there is also a hugely important emotional aspect and a lot of themes of wanting to belong, belonging, those sorts of things, and I really connected with that. Delilah as a character, she is so sarcastic, she is funny. Claire is a little cinnamon roll, and I love her so much. Claire is also a single mother who is having some issues with the father of her child being back in town, so there is a conversation about that in there. I really, really enjoyed this book, and and I can't wait to read more. I can't wait for the next one in this series to come out. I'm so excited. So I gave Delilah Green Doesn't Care 4.5 out of 5 stars. So after that, I continued on with my female romance train because I really enjoyed it, and I picked up another rom-com. I picked up Read Between the Lines by Rachel Lacy. So this book is following our main ladies, Rosie and Jane. Rosie has become the owner of her family's bookstore after the passing of her mother. She really enjoys reading female romances, and she has this specific favorite author that she loves to read. Jane is kind of like a shark in the realty business, and her family actually owns the building in which Rosie's family bookstore resides. So at the beginning of this story, unfortunately, the building that Rosie's bookstore is in is not up to code, and Jane's family has decided to tear down this store in order to build some condominiums. Obviously, Rosie is not happy about this. This is sort of like an enemies to friends to lovers, you've got mail type of situation. We've got an anonymous author who is Rosie's favorite, and perhaps we might find out who it is. I really enjoyed this in the first half, but as the story went on, Rosie continued to hold Jane personally responsible for some of the things that happened, which were not technically her fault, and I really just got a little irritated by it, I'm not gonna lie. And by the end of it, I was just kind of tired of Rosie's grudges, I guess. So I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. Next, in the month of July, I read Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher. This is a slow burn, lighthearted fantasy romance in which we are following Hala, who has just come into some money after the death of her boss. She was his housekeeper. They're kind of related, it doesn't matter. And when his family find out that he has left his entire fortune to Hala, they are obviously not happy about this, and they try to force her into a marriage that Hala does not want. Hala decides that she would rather die than to enter into a marriage that she does not want, and so she decides to commit suicide using this very ancient weapon that is in one of the rooms of the house. Obviously, there is a trigger warning for suicide, but all of the serious things in this story are taken very lightly. It's very humorous all the way through, but I do want to mention that there is a trigger warning for suicide. With this ancient sword, when she takes it out of its sheath, a big ball of blue smoke appears, and this very ancient man pops out of the sword and tells her that he is the guardian of this weapon, and whoever wields it, he must protect. So they go on a journey together to help Hala gain her inheritance without having to enter into this marriage. This is a really lighthearted story. There is a lot of fun times, a lot of shenanigans. If you like The Princess Bride, you might like this as well. It was giving me Princess Bride vibes the entire time. This is a really fun story. If you're looking for spice, this is not where it's at, but if you're looking for a lighthearted fantasy romance that is going to make you laugh out loud and give you characters to root for and that you love, definitely check it out. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I picked up Lore Olympus Volume 2 by Rachel Smythe. This is a Hades and Persephone series that I originally started reading on Webtoon. It is still available on Webtoon if you are interested in picking it up, but I had to get these physical copies because they're just gorgeous. So if you have not heard about Lore Olympus yet, if you're living under a rock, don't worry, it's a Hades and Persephone retelling. It's absolutely fabulous. It is a graphic novel series. The art in this is so colorful and beautiful and gorgeous. This is honestly one of my favorite representations of Persephone to date. So at the beginning of this story, Persephone has finally been able to leave the human realm, and she travels to Olympus to be able to attend Olympus University. She goes to a party one night where Hades sees her and says that she puts Aphrodite to shame. Aphrodite overhears this and decides that she's gonna embarrass Persephone a little bit. There is a trigger warning for sexual assault. This is not done by the hero, but it is done by someone else, and if you're worried about that, Rachel does a great job of letting you know when these things are going to be happening and when they're going to be talked about as well. Absolutely love this series. Obviously, it's a 5 out of 5 stars. It's Lore Olympus. What can you do? So next, I picked up The Casanova by Tl Swann. This is book 3 in the Miles High Club. This one was a little bit of a doozy, and I still don't know how I feel about it. So this is an enemies to lovers billionaire office romance following Kate and Elliot. Now, I say that I'm a little bit conflicted about it because I listened to this one on audiobook. I was absolutely dying for it. I loved it so much. I loved the narrators. Kate is awkward. She's fun. She's amazing. Elliot, he makes some decisions toward the latter half of the book that I just was screaming about because I was like, no, this was going to be a favorite book. Just so you know, there is a kind of other woman dynamic in this because I was not expecting it. It's not that bad, but it still really got on my nerves and I was so upset about it. So if that is something that you are easily upset by, just know that before you go into this book. There is also a little bit of a mystery aspect and there is a grovel at the end, which I found partially satisfying, but still not enough to make up for the shit that he put me through. I really liked this one, and even though that aspect was in there and I absolutely hate when that happens, I still gave it 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved Kate. I loved her relationship with Elliot until that one thing happened, which we're not going to talk about. This book made me laugh. It made me cry. It made me freaking angry as all get out. I'm telling you, I was screaming. But in the end, obviously, I was left satisfied. And I gave it 4.5 stars. I freaking loved it. I don't know. So carrying on with the billionaire office type romance, I read Hate Notes by Vi Keeland. This was so good. I freaking love this, and I had never heard anybody talk about this before in my life. I literally went on Kindle Unlimited and went to the audiobooks tab and started scrolling for something to listen to, and this popped up. I absolutely freaking loved it. So in this story, we are following Charlotte, and at the beginning of this novel, Charlotte has actually caught her fiance cheating, so obviously she ends things. She is in a consignment shop getting ready to sell her wedding dress when she falls in love with another wedding dress, which has a little blue note, a little blue piece of stationery in it that has one of the most beautiful, loving notes that she has ever seen in her life from the desk of Reed Eastwood. So she decides to do an even trade, her dress for this beautiful dress that she's fallen in love with. She goes home, she puts on the dress, she gets blackout drunk and starts Googling this man. And she finds out that he actually works for a realty company and they are doing a showing for this multi-million-dollar apartment. And unbeknownst to her in her drunken haze, she puts in an application to go and see this apartment to meet this man that she has just absolutely fallen for from afar. Through some shenanigans, they end up beginning to work together, and it is so good. It is so deliciously good. Charlotte is such a quirky woman. If you really like someone who's dorky and quirky and fun in your books, read it. I don't know. Reed is such a little grumpy man and he's got his reasons, but he is such a grump. So if you really like the grumpy sunshine trope, definitely check this one out. Lord have mercy. I absolutely loved this book. This was my favorite book of the month, and it is definitely a favorite of the year, and I cannot wait to read it again. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I could scream about it all day long. Next, I read The Reckoning by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. This is book 3 in the Zodiac Academy series. Lord have mercy. Okay, I really love this world. I love Tori and Darcy. I love all of the characters. One of the things that got on my nerves, however, was the back and forth that the boys have toward the Vegas. They have this kind of, I like you, but I can't let you have anything that you really don't want anyway, and it got on my nerves just a tad. However, this series is so addicting and delicious. I have so much fun with it every single time I pick up one of these books. If you were wondering, we did get a little bit more of some smexy action. We were robbed of a specific scene, but I'm not gonna talk about it here. Xavier is my new favorite character of the series, and he must be protected at all costs. So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait to read book 4. Next, I went on a little bit of a binge of a series. I read the first 4. There's 5 out. I'm reading the 5th one now, but let's talk about it. And that series is the Bonds That Tie series by J. Bree. So the first book, Broken Bonds, follows our main character, Ollie. And in this world, your fated mates are determined by your blood. They do a testing for blood, and in these sort of scenarios, there is a central bond who has multiple other partners. At the beginning of this story, Ollie has been captured and she is being returned to her bonds because she, for some reason, ran away. She is obviously not happy about this, and she is very upset with the men that have captured her. She has 5 bonds, and they are none too happy at her for running away either. This first book is kind of like an enemies to lovers kind of situation, and it really, really, really reminds me of Zodiac Academy. This series is just as addicting as Zodiac Academy, in my opinion, and I had so much fun with it. I gave the first book, Broken Bonds, 3.5 out of 5 stars. The second book, Savage Bonds, 4 out of 5 stars. The third book, Blood Bonds, 4 out of 5 stars. Forced Bonds, 4.5 out of 5 stars. This series is so fun. It's so addicting. You get this really good slow burn romance between Ollie and her bonds. And also, if you really like a heroine who is more powerful than her boo things, check this one out as well. It is so much fun. So the next book that I want to mention is Echoes of the Past by Gabby Black. This is book 1 in the Maya Hartwell series. This is sort of like a mystery thriller type of book, and fun fact, I narrated it. This is one of my favorite books that I have ever narrated. So in this story, we are following Maya Hartwell. She is a veteran turned attorney, and she is an absolute badass. When we are introduced to Maya, she has just won this huge case against this pharmaceutical company that was being a little dirty, nasty, taking advantage of people. So after she has won this case, she has decided that she is going to take a little bit of a vacation to get away from the high-speed life that she lives in the city as an attorney. So she finds herself in this little town called Lansfield Ridge. And upon her arrival, she finds out that there is actually a teenage girl who has gone missing recently. So this town is a little bit in turmoil, and our main character, Maya, cannot avoid her sleuthing ways. She has to solve this case. It's one of those towns that just does not like outsiders, and Maya is poking her nose in their business. It is one of my favorite books that I've ever narrated, and I had so much fun with it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's a lot of fun. And last, but certainly not least, we have the behemoth that is Akamath. I reread this for the SJM along that has been going on, and Lord have mercy, I loved it so much. It's one of my favorite books in the ACOTAR series. I really don't have much else to say about it other than it's Akamath. We love it. 5 out of 5 stars. Resand is delicious. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of July. Let me know down below, what was your favorite book that you read in the month of July? If you are new here, please make sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any more bookish content from me. I hope you do. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.